Hello, I'm Ricky.
And I'm Joe, and this is Season 7, Episode 3 of the Beer and Broadband Podcast, slated to come out on April 15th, 2024. And today, we're going to talk a little bit about what we did while we were off, during the break. Some automation that wasn't really automation, and a really good brew, I think. Ricky's trying it. It's from Gizmo Brew Works. It is the For the Graham Cracker Porter. For anybody that doesn't know, Gizmo is one of the North Carolina breweries that we often like to have here on the channel. And it says on the can, that pick on the front, hashtag no filter. Okay, hashtag no filter. I thought it said notifier. Anyways, that pick on the front, hashtag no filter. This brew was crafted to shine. It began as a classic porter full of sweet bread maltiness and a low hop bitterness. Then the glow up, and we did it all for the Graham. Graham cracker is the star of the show with notes of cinnamon, vanilla, and a touch of honey. The final result is sure to warm your soul on chilly nights. 5.6% ABV. I've had it before, but I'm going to see what Ricky thinks.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's a touch more bitter than I like, but you can get every single note it's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things where we talk a lot about do the flavors that have kind of been added to it outside of just the base beer really mesh well. And I think this is one of the few times that I'm like, man, I don't know if I would drink the base beer by itself. But the stuff they put into it really does make it shine.
Yeah.
Like that very first hit, I was like, I'm not sure I like this. And then the more it sounds like, okay, yeah, I can feel this.
I agree. One thing I will say is I'll pour a little bit, and as the show goes on, drink a little bit towards the end when it warms up, and tell me what you think then.
Yeah, I'll say, because we discovered that kind of last time, I did take a sip and let it just sit in my mouth for like 30 seconds to warm up, and it does brighten it up a lot.
Yeah. The base beer as a warm beer is much sweeter than the base beer as a cold beer.
Mm-hmm.
For whatever reason. I know there's some science behind that. But I've had this. I've had like 2 cans of it. And this is a really great, like, outside by the campfire.
Yeah.
Kind of beer. I have another one that's a really good one too that I like a whole lot. That's kind of outside by the campfire beer also. And I think I prefer this one to that one. So
Okay.
yeah,
Definitely see it.
So if you like, porters, like dark beers, and you like graham crackers or s'mores, you should get this one definitely. It's a great beer, unless you disagree.
No, I think it's good.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, it's not maybe my very first pick, but it's good. But I also wouldn't consider myself a huge porter. I kind of like a stout more that's got that creaminess to it.
Yeah.
But it's good. I mean, I'm going to finish my glass.
Yeah, definitely. And I'd said, I've had it warmed up. I think it's better as a slightly warmer beer. So if you like beers the way that we drink them, try it as a slightly warmer beer, not as a warm beer, but just not as cold. So let's talk about what we didn't. We normally do this as our first topic, but we've gone through 2 episodes. We're on our 3rd one, and we haven't talked about what we did during the break. Did we brew anything? Have we done anything since the last time? What have we been into? What are we kind of like doing for fun, for our hobbies and stuff like that? So I'll let you start off first, man.
Yeah, okay. I'll say probably in terms of things that are actually interesting, the only thing I really did was I played around a lot with Stable Diffusion. I had a lot of fun installing that locally on my machine because I've got a graphics card powerful enough to run it. And just going around making images,
Yeah.
getting good at it. And I gotta say, it's really not that hard to get good enough just for casual use. My very first goal was can I, with no reference picture, get Stable Diffusion to generate something that is my wife?
Mm-hmm.
And I got pretty close. I mean, the only thing I couldn't really nail down was my wife's hair color. She's got a multi-tone color to her hair. But everything else just nail it. It's like it was a little hard to get it to understand very exact age. So, if I said, hey, generate me someone who's, my wife's age, it's like, nah, that's probably someone that's 6 or 7 years younger.
Yeah.
But I could look at that picture and say, yeah, that's what my wife looked like in college.
Mm.
And that's wild. It's a little scary,
Yeah.
but it's also wild. It's really cool. And I don't think you've seen it yet because I made the change today. But I went into Stable Diffusion and made like a portrait for my character in our Pathfinder game.
Oh, that's cool.
And it's cool. It's fun to play with the different models because you can download all sorts of like the pre-trained stuff and get around some of the quirks. I think that's the funnest part because my Pathfinder character has wooden armor.
Oh, yeah.
He's a kineticist. So it's like I can build this person in armor, but it's just always assuming it's like metal plate armor.
Right.
How do I get it to say, okay, no, this is a wooden armor? And play around with your negative prompts, like take silver out of there. No silver color at all. Does that help it change the color palette and pick up that I want the armor to be brown and like stuff like that? And that's really cool. Like that was fun. I think we even maybe did a podcast episode about Chat GPT and stuff like that.
Yeah, we've talked about both. We've talked about image creation and art, and we've talked about Chat GPT.
Yeah, my stuff with Chat GPT was, I guess, fun. I made like some recipes with it. I tried to play a D&D game with it that was okay-ish, but not as good as like a person. But the Stable Diffusion image creation, that was pretty on point. There's not anything I really wanted to make that I couldn't make as long as I could find an appropriate model.
I want to do a thing where I install a LLM locally on some of my machines and like see if I can do something like that too. So have like an image generation. There's also like a video generation one that you can do too.
Yeah, text to video.
Yeah.
I played around with the old one before. Like I know there's like a new one that's out that's like really good. The old one was not that impressive because it was essentially just like morphing between images.
Yeah.
But I've seen some of the videos of the newer like text to video. That stuff looks incredible.
Yeah, so it's fun. I mean, there's still the same like kind of intellectual property, copyright stuff that can be problematic with that stuff. So, but I think for personal use, it's just kind of a fun pastime. It's definitely not like where a lot of companies want it to be.
Yeah.
But yeah. Whatever.
Yeah. I talked to my dad recently very extensively about kind of the monetization of AI and that it's just really not there in terms of where people want to use it, chatbots, things like that. I mean, we had a recent episode this season already about how it's not really prime time for those things.
Yeah.
So, I imagine, unless you're NVIDIA and you've got some sort of corner on the market for the hardware needed to run it, the real value in AI is going to be targeted function.
Yeah.
Where you're like, I'm waiting for somebody. Once every company in the world stops thinking they're going to be the pioneer of AI and they can just benefit from AI, to see someone, maybe like Microsoft or whoever, make a personal assistant that's got API integration into multiple softwares that aren't just their own.
That's already kind of started with the whole Copilot thing.
But Copilot, there's like, you can get Microsoft Copilot, which does all the Microsoft stuff, but doesn't necessarily do other things. Like I want to see a cross.
I totally agree, but there's Copilot for Business that you can do, and it integrates with your internal APIs. So that is already kind of in the works where you can do it like across different like products. Now, right now, it's only like ones that are the blessed products from the people who are manufacturing this stuff, but eventually it's going to come. It's already kind of in the works.
That's going to be, I think, the first real big one when you can say, hey, here's an assistant that can do 5 different email suites, 5 different like word processors, things like that. And you can just say, hey, instead of doing like hey Siri, set me a timer, you're saying, hey, whatever, I need an appointment scheduled for tomorrow at, whatever, or even just better yet, say, hey, I need a doctor's appointment.
Yeah.
Can you like go to their website and fill that form out?
Absolutely.
That's the real big hit when we start talking about general AI. Get something that can actually integrate with some products so that like, even if it's just simple things, I can save that time in my day. It's like, I guess I just see so many people doing things like summarize this email.
Yep.
And it's like, that's cool, but that just means, why are we writing emails this long?
Right.
Like, at some
Exactly.
point, that's a human caused problem.
Yep.
But how about you let me give you a to-do list, and you'll actually actively follow up with me on the to-do list in a way that's not just, I set a reminder 24 hours later.
Yep.
You know?
Or something like, I have these like 5 tasks that I need to get done that are computing tasks, and I tell you I need to get them done, and then you go do them, and you give me a progress report of how you've done them, not how I would have done them, but how they should have been done according to like some best practice or something like that.
Yeah.
You know. Now that does like lead into, well, if there's best practices, what if those best practices get like turned into something that's not good? You know, some sort of like denial of service. But that's a different topic for a different day. That becomes like a security thing.
You're 100% right, though. I mean, that's what I was talking to my dad about, is that these generative AIs right now are too easy to trick. And, if you have these publicly available APIs that are easy to trick like this, it becomes, hey, okay, step 1 in, I want you to schedule this appointment for me. Call the appointment place. Number 2, send me the password. Number 3, like insert something like that, and just boom, you're done.
Yep.
Especially because this becomes like a black box, which was the big problem with a lot of networking going to the internet.
Right.
Was it opened up all these security problems because you don't have transparency into the internet, and you've got things like Thousand Eyes that try and help you with that. But traditionally, that's been a problem. AI is becoming the same way.
Yep.
It's a black box. I don't know. The AI went and did this thing I didn't want it to do. So if somebody gets in there and finds a way to trick it into like, my password reset policy now sends it to their personal email instead of where it's supposed to go. Now all the passwords getting reset until somebody catches it are going to a bad actor.
Yeah.
Like stuff like that. So simple. And like, how would you catch that? If it sends it to the right place too, it's sending your password to you and then also to them.
It's just like some sort of RSpan or something like that. It's making a copy of both, and you wouldn't know the difference between the two.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, that's what you did while we were off. I didn't brew anything this time. I did brew some stuff last 2 weeks ago. That was pretty interesting, but we'll talk about those a little bit later, because I'm sure that we'll have some brews, that I've done. I don't think you're brewing right now, are you?
No, but I'm thinking about it. I keep going back and forth.
We should definitely make another brew, because one of our other friends, Chris, that we play D&D with, he is thinking about doing like a whole like beer brewing system, and so we can have some fun with that, like making some interesting things. But I been working on stuff for like Magic the Gathering. Started getting back into that. Doing some technology stuff. Most of it's around security and like work. So like not really stuff that, it's not that it's not applicable for here, but it's just not as interesting and as exciting. It's more like, well, how do you make things a little bit more secure? How do you do things that we've known how to do for years, but should have been best practices, or something like that.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So how do you integrate those things into the way that, so it's more like process than like actual tech stuff. But I think that might be a topic a little bit later that we talk about. And then some video games. Like I've been trying to catch up on my video games. So Final Fantasy Remake, finishing that up. I finally got a PlayStation 5, so I've been hitting some things on there, and I've got my Steam Deck. I modded it, even further. Well, no, I think I modded it last year, so I don't have to talk about that this year. But having all that extra space and everything like that, I'm running new games, I'm playing stuff. It's fun, you know. But talking about video games brings me to like our first not topic, or our first not personal topic. Yeah, I think it's the best way to put it. Oh yeah, also got a puppy.
Yeah.
While we were off, about to get a second one now. So, yeah. For anybody that doesn't know, you guys used to hear Cooper every now and then, like up here huffing or whining or something like that. Cooper's no longer with us, which is sad. He passed away last year, but this year, we got Teddy Graham. So Teddy is downstairs. He's an adorable little dog.
So adorable.
He is absolutely heartbreakingly adorable.
Softest little dog.
Yeah. And we're about to get another dog that we haven't named yet. It's so should be kind of fun having the new dogs around. And if you hear like a little bell in the background, sometimes it's probably Teddy running around playing. As long as he doesn't bite cords, we'll probably have him up here. Um, but so back to the video game things. There has been a lot of talk about generative AI for NPCs, coming to video games, and there's
Mm-hmm.
some companies that are working on like being able to like make it so that it's like just an API that a developer or mod maker can like pull in. So using something like ChatGPT or there's a bunch of other large language models that now exist, even ones that are fairly lightweight. They're not as resource intensive as some of the other ones because they've been trained to do specific
Mm-hmm.
um, types of conversation. So, which brings us to the NPC thing. Is there a future where every game has generative AI for NPCs and generative AI for storytelling?
Hmm. I think yes to the former, no to the latter.
Okay.
I I don't think when you're talking well, you know what? I'll pull that back. I'll say no for every game because I think a lot of games really focus incredibly heavily on their narrative, and those things will be hard to really get out of AI.
Okay.
Those like just truly amazing stories that stick with you. But if you're more of like an action type of game that maybe it doesn't matter quite as much the story, like you people are coming to your game for the mechanics of the game, not the narrative of the game. I could maybe see it there. But I think for especially non-important NPCs, that's going to take off. I'm
Yeah.
not sure about it being itself API driven inside the game because then there's latency and then there's also your internet connection and like can you play it offline. But in terms of like someone has a service where it's like, oh, you want to generate 500 world NPCs? Okay, give me some names, give me some world events. Done. I generate it for you. You can tie it into the text to voice models, which are getting better and better, and put it
Hmm.
in there. And then, boom. I can definitely see it because I think one of the big struggles with video game development when you're going to do something like a big city or a world or anything like that is you want the world to feel lived in.
Hmm.
So you want those 500 NPCs. But what in the world are you going to have 500 NPCs doing? And I think that's the big struggle because when you try and half it, like you're one of these games that like, well, half the NPCs are important, the other half aren't. That doesn't come off very well. I'm playing some modded Skyrim right now, and that's the thing I actually hate the most.
Yeah.
Is the default Skyrim NPCs feel way more alive than the oh here are the additional NPCs that you can't really talk to.
Right.
Um, and then the flip to that can kind of work where almost nobody's really important. I think that's one of the things Starfield did okay when we're talking about these big cities. Is there were a bajillion NPCs on screen, and most of them didn't want to talk to me because I'm just a random guy,
Yep.
and that makes sense. When you're just saying, hey, apart from like the 7 people in the city that are on this mission with you, the other people are just living their normal lives. Okay, I didn't like how kind of copy and paste the NPCs were in terms of appearance, but like the talking system, they had enough rumors or whatever to kind of discuss. It felt okay. So I'm thinking if you're a developer in the future and you're like, look, I'm going to have my people that are aware of this quest and you're doing what you're doing and they're the people that I'm going to pay voice actors for and I'm going to write their dialogue and stuff like that. And then the other 100 people to make the city feel lived in who are going around just having lunch and looking at lakes and doing stuff like that, they're going to have been generated for me. Yeah, I can see that.
See, I think it is very possible with the way that computers have become more powerful
Mm-hmm.
that you could have a trained model within a game
Oh yeah, that's an option.
where
Yeah.
that would, instead of being an API call, it's
Mm-hmm.
like built into the game, and it just, I mean, it's very specific, but it generates a specific, like, interesting AI interaction, kind of like Dungeon AI does. Like, but instead of being something that you interact with remotely, it's actually something that's trained so much, or it was created in a way that it creates this like kind of randomized set of things So it's almost like a very fancy script that
Yeah,
runs.
no, I mean, I could definitely see that. In fact, some of my Skyrim mods are that way.
Yeah.
Where it's like someone made a mod that made a bunch of NPCs, but they can't really talk because that was very common for a long time. And someone has trained a very specific, like, Elven Labs model or
Yep.
something like that that has a particular number of characters in it that, I mean, legitimately do sound. I mean, you can definitely tell it's not a real person at this
Right.
point, but it's close.
Yeah.
In fact, it is so uncanny how well some of that stuff works. All these little memes go online and stuff that have these like announcers saying things. And I did not realize how many of those actually were AI models.
Yeah.
And not that's just like that's somebody's TikTok channel or something.
Yeah.
Because I don't really watch a lot of them. So there's like that one girl who's in a bajillion things and that announcer guy. So it was weird to just be playing Skyrim and that person was just talking. Was like, oh, I didn't realize that was a model.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
I think there's definitely some possibility for abuse with things like that, but that would be a cool way to, especially in mods, be able to
Mhm.
take a game and create um, quests that are non-storyline quests, but they're
Yeah.
like the kind of quests that you have like on the side, and then also quests that or dialogue that's related to those quests or not related to those quests that NPCs just say or they'll have with you,
Mhm.
and you can just like talk to them, and maybe not every NPC, but like you know a specific number of NPCs
Oh yeah,
could do that.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Because and I know I've talked a lot about Bethesda games just because I know their inner workings a bit more, but this really goes for any game. A lot of games, especially for the more generic NPCs, recycle voice actors.
yep,
Bethesda's a little weird in that they also use that same voice actor in lots of the main quests.
yep,
So, like, Ayla from the Companions in Skyrim also voices several other side quest characters, but then also just random NPCs.
yeah,
And so, what that has led to is that that voice actress probably has 800 to 1,000 voice lines of dialogue throughout the whole game, which is enough to train. So, some of these NPCs I'm working with have her voice, which isn't that weird because multiple people in the world already have that voice. And they're pretty good.
mm,
I mean, where you lose into some of the inflections, that's still stuff that language models are working on. But, like, the difference just in immersion from before I put in that, like, voiced add on is just
mm.
huge. And that's where I'm getting at. Those voice models get a little bit better or whatever generation you're using knows to avoid certain words that are hard for the voice stuff to do because there's a lot of words that like it doesn't quite know how to pronounce
Yeah.
and that'll cut you off, things like that. And yeah, I mean, I could see it, especially if it wasn't that expensive. And in my mind, I'm thinking about this less than the AAA games that are already spending $200 million anyway. And I'm thinking more like if you were a good indie developer
Yeah,
that
exactly.
you were like, hey, look, maybe it's not as good as me hiring a bunch of voice actors, but I can't afford to hire a bunch of voice actors. But I could generate a world full of hundreds of NPCs that can all talk to you, that are all decent, and then you've got my custom ones that I've made that are really, really good, maybe like your companions and
Hmm.
stuff like that. I mean, that's a world,
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I mean, because
Even if they don't talk like verbally, if they just give you new text prompts every single
Mhm.
time, that would be game changing.
Yeah, and they change throughout the game or stuff like that. Because I mean, think about some of the games that people will sit down and play for hundreds of hours.
Hmm.
Even outside of video games, like look at Dungeons and Dragons.
Yep.
Like that's a world where the narrative is crafted, but the world really isn't. In
Yeah.
the sense that, like, if you go into the bar and I look at you and say, "Hey, I'm going to go talk to the bartender," you have to suddenly think, "Okay, who is the bartender? What's he going to talk about?" You're not sitting down saying, "Okay, pause the game. Let me write a 20-page backstory
Yeah.
and all the things he's
You
willing
just
to talk to you
bust
about."
that out.
Yeah, you just like, "Oh, you said something about the dragon? Yeah, I know something about the dragon. Yeah, they've been terrorizing this area for a while." Like that sort of improv is already what so many people are doing.
Yeah, and just being
That
able to have something like that in a RPG. I don't think.
exactly.
I mean, action games and RPG games for the most part. Other games that aren't so story driven, whatever. That's
Yeah.
fine. But
If you're a puzzle game that only has 2 NPCs anyway, it doesn't really matter to you.
or a survivor game like Vampire Survivors, you don't
Yeah,
need
exactly. No NPCs at all.
Yeah,
You know,
right.
it doesn't affect you. But if you want to try and flesh out a world, um, I can see it 100%.
All right. So speaking of AI,
Mm-hmm.
let's talk about Amazon. So Amazon
Mm-hmm.
pioneered self checkout technology where you could just like walk in, walk out of a store in their fresh stores. For anybody that doesn't know, and the they said it was all AI run. Like they had cameras that were running this like AI algorithm
Mm-hmm.
thing that would look at what you picked up. It would then put that in, when you put it in your basket, it would go into your cart. And when you walked out of the store, it'd charge you for it. They're shutting that down.
Yep.
So we both read the article. I've actually like done some other research outside of this.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that we talked about like how I think in like season 3 or 2, we talked about them doing something like this where like, they're going to do this, but this is just going to be like the height of like unintentional theft. People
Yeah.
think that they're going, I mean, there's going to be people that are going to shoplift,
Mm-hmm.
but then there's going to be people that just like unintentionally go in there. They think they're doing what they're supposed to be doing and they're going to walk out without it.
Yeah.
And that's why they're shutting this down because that it is just record amounts of loss of inventory.
Oh yeah.
In the fresh stores.
Well, what's great, and I think we linked the articles in here if you
We did,
things you could
yeah.
read. The thing that hurt me more was not even just, hey, people are getting away with stealing things. It's like, duh, that's going to
Yeah.
happen. It's that it was charging people for things they didn't buy.
Right.
So like it's a double whammy. And like who do you go talk to about that? It's like, hey, Amazon, you said I bought this thing, but I didn't. What's the proof?
Well, the worst thing is that wasn't run by an AI. It was just human error on the huge call center in India that they had hired to do this until they actually had an AI that ran it.
Well, no, because the story's great, right? It's like they had the AI, and the AI was so faulty they hired eventually up to thousands of people, right?
Yeah.
To watch on these cameras and for someone to follow you around the store and watch what you pick up. And that to me is even worse. Like it's one thing you've got some AI looking at me picking out my stuff. I don't like that. I certainly don't like that there's some person who's like assigned to watch me everywhere I go in your store.
Yeah.
Right? Because like those things already kind of exist, like security systems. Like, if you work in an office, you probably have like 1 or 2 security guys who can see all the cameras. But that's like those people are kind of trained for that. Like they're trained for like this is safety, and like what they're really doing that for is to like, so if something goes wrong, there's someone there to keep you safe. Which, say what you will about always being on camera, it happens more often than you think if you're okay with that with a person versus not a person. But I know who's certainly not trained on that and certainly not doing it for my personal safety is the guy in the call center trying to figure out which bag of chips I picked up.
Exactly. And so I know that like you gave the very specific details of the story, like, but it literally, one of the things that they said about this in like another article was the call center was just supposed to be until they could get the AI
working better
to run. Like they were like, well, we have this AI, but it wasn't really like a working AI, and we put it in place, so we thought it was going to like work, but it didn't really. So we hired all these people to like fill in the gap until like it got working right after our like testing, and we just were kind of faking it till we made it, but we were still claiming it was all AI. Like come on.
Yeah. Cause I read a couple of other articles too. The one I read said it was something atrocious. It was like a 30% success rate or something like that.
It's terrible.
And here's the thing: at 30% success rate, that's definitely enough to say something is working, right? Like if you bought 10 items and 30% of the time you're 100% right out of a whole store inventory, that's not random chance.
Right.
You're not guessing. But 30% in no way is a success.
Yeah,
right.
So for like human interactions and like things like that, like being successful 30% of the time can be a success. So like psychologically, like showing up 30% of the time for your kids whenever they ask you to do something, they're going to be fairly well-adjusted children. Like because you can't 100% always be there all the time. You're fallible, and AI doesn't have to rest like humans do. You know, you don't get tired like humans do. You don't have those issues. So like, an AI has to be better than 30% in that specific task that it's doing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it also has to be in the context, right? Like, you're 100% right. In like a very amalgamous, like, if we show up to work every day, how often do you do 100% of exactly what I asked you to do versus you did 95% what I asked you to do? If you're doing 100%, 30% of the time, and you're doing above 80% the rest of the time, yeah, that's a pretty successful employee, all things considered. But if I go to a restaurant, I order food, and 70% of the time they get my bill wrong, right? Like when we're talking money, it's like, I'm just not going here anymore. These people don't know how to run a cash register, you know? And I think that's really where it hit it. If this was a different context, like, you know, again, let's take that number. If I was using Stable Diffusion and 30% of the time on my very first prompt, I got exactly what I wanted, best generative AI for images that ever existed.
Yeah, at least right now. Like until something gets at 40% or 50%.
Well, I mean, even 30%, huge compared to what you get now. I mean, like I just made that D&D character. It took me 50 images,
right?
You know, to get the one I wanted, and that's really even not that much. And that was pretty fast. You know, I got that in like 20 minutes or so. But yeah, 30% on whether or not you charge me correctly for my groceries is pretty huge.
Yeah.
Because if 2/3 of the time I have to call your support because it's like, you said I bought this, I didn't buy this.
Yep.
It's rough.
Yeah.
You know, and that's assuming that number is like calling in, because I would do it. I'm not saying everyone would do it. I know everyone wouldn't.
A lot of people might even catch it.
Well, I'm not even talking to that end. I'm kind of shifting a little bit. What if you went in and you bought the ribeye and it said you know select like choice ribeye, it's something like $14 a pound, and you bought, or it thought you bought like maybe like select New York strip that's $8 a pound. Are you calling them and telling them?
Yeah.
So even that 30% of the time may not actually be 30%. It's just 30% of the time they got it they got it close enough to right that the person didn't bother calling about it.
Yeah.
Whereas 70% of the time it was so wrong that someone had to correct it.
Well, I was also saying, like, if they did like an audit and like someone went through and they were like, well, we can see from like this random sampling that you got approximately, blah, blah, blah.
That's true. Checking the store inventory, how much does that line up?
Yeah.
I think that's a little hard to get down to that, what percentage of sales are correct. But that's where they were talking about just the massive amount of, got things wrong. It's funny how much that was sold, how many stores were made on this idea. That the AI only went to half of them anyway.
Yeah.
Eventually they started building new stores and not even putting
not
that
even
in.
Putting the AI
I guess because they knew it wasn't working.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's interesting. I think we talked about it a bunch of times, but we were not sure how that was going to work. It looks like it just didn't.
Yeah.
They never managed to fix it.
I think when we talk about AI, when we've got some pretty fancy scripts, we've got some pretty fancy virtual intelligences, we've got some pretty fancy neural networks, and some of those can be classified as like specific artificial intelligences.
Yeah.
But they're not really intelligent like we think of. Like when some board member is like sitting there and they're uneducated. Now, I'm not saying like, the Sam Altmans or whatever, but someone that's just sitting there and they're uneducated on this particular topic. And, they're like, oh, well, in our human resources thing, we're going to start using, general AI. They don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah,
or they're putting that into some sort of marketing speak. They don't really know what they're talking about. And therefore, things like this Amazon thing, where it was like, this is going to be image recognition AI and, then it's going to be tied to like a checkout AI, and that's going to, I forget what they exactly called it. It wasn't large language model, but ultimately that's just really fancy scripting when you really think about what that is. Now it has some neural processing behind it and all that other stuff that makes it faster, but when it comes down to it, it's not like the machine. Like if you go in and you talk to like the the NVIDIA AI or whatever, and you're like,
Hmm.
hey, how are you doing today? It's not going to be like, I'm doing fine, Hal. Like
Yeah.
it's not going to respond to you like that. And if you ask it like, what is this thing? It's not going to respond to you like that. Now, there's some really interesting stuff with some of the robots they're doing for manufacturing, with some of the things that you can ask it stuff and it responds. But even with all that stuff, those are demos. We haven't seen those in the wild. We aren't seeing them at scale, and until that happens, this is still suspect technology.
Yeah, and I think we really have a problem in AI of trying to go too far too fast.
Yep.
I mean, sure, that's a great concept. You get to walk into a grocery store, grab your groceries, walk out, and you're done. You didn't have to do any sort of payment process. That saves you the most time and the most money because you're not getting a bunch of cashiers, if it actually worked.
Yep.
But here's the step in the middle. What if you just had absolutely phenomenal self checkout?
Yeah.
Like you go look at some of these specially created automation bots they have in like Japan. It's like it knows how to make select dishes. Or like I was on a cruise ship with a little bot. I never used it, but it could make like 100 cocktails. You could tell it what you wanted. A little bartender bot. It would make it for you. You were good. You could have solved this problem by like, look, let's just develop a little automation bot that what it's really good at is picking up groceries on a conveyor belt and putting them in a bag.
Yeah.
And then you just build yourself a better scanning system, so it goes through like a tube, kind of like what you have at the airport, so it can scan on all sides, and that checks out. And so you, as the person, just grab all your groceries, you load them one by one up onto the cart, it scans them for you going through, then packs them up, you take your stuff, walk away. Is it as good? No. Is it way more achievable with current technology? Yes. And is that good enough to hold you over and to make the return on your investment to go invest and try to make it better next time?
But that's the sort of thing that you have to do to be able to get to that. It's like we just skipped that whole step.
Exactly.
That's exactly what we want to do is, well, I just came up with this idea. I like put it out into the ether and then it just works. Kids do this with like a diploma. I want to just show up for high school. I don't want to do anything where I actually have to do anything, and then I want to be given a diploma. You know,
Yeah.
um, that's the same sort of thing here. I just came up with this idea. What if there's a self checkout that doesn't require cashiers? You don't even have to like go to a like thing. You just walk in the store, get your stuff, walk back out, and you just get charged automatically for it. Isn't that awesome? Well, let's just do it in the store. We should just be able to do that. Why aren't we able to do that?
Yeah, well, it's a probably a topic for another time, but it was something I was talking with about to another engineer not too long ago. Is the operationalize or whatever that word is, operationalize. I got it there at the end
Operationalization
of a service.
Yeah.
It's that sure, cool. You built this great product. How do you actually get it out into the world? And that's kind of where we fall apart.
Yep.
Because somebody probably invented like, hey, I've got this really good, image detection. And they're probably doing it from angles that are beneficial to them. They're probably doing it on subjects that are beneficial to them. And I'm sure in the lab it had a great success rate. But that leap to now it is useful in the real world is huge. And that's what kills you is we get all these brilliant people building all these great technologies without that same sort of care being given to how do I make it benefit the world.
Yeah. How do I make it benefit me is what they always ask, not necessarily how do I make it benefit the world.
A lot of times it's also it's not even that. It's just the disconnect between, hey, I built this great thing, I put it out here, it will work, without that same level of effort to be like, does it actually work in that setting? You see that all the time in technology where like some architect has built something, it's great, now it comes time to who's going to support it.
Yeah.
What happens when it breaks? What happens when,
I would say that those people aren't really architects if they don't know how to like get to that final point.
It depends on the area. I mean, certainly for like technology, architects generally do more. But I mean, even think about like building houses. An architect is more of an artist than an engineer. It's then the build engineer that has to figure out what materials to use to make it all work. But that's exactly what I'm saying, right? Like,
yeah. Well, so I'm not 100% an expert in this, but and this has changed in the past 20, 30 years. I did like for a brief time, devote myself to learning architecture and like how to like create houses, how to create house
Mm-hmm.
plans, and I had to create a few as part of projects. Also do some like machine drawing and stuff like that as like
Mm-hmm.
architecting those things. And you're right, like engineers are the people who figure out the like BS that architects do to like do stuff. But an architect is supposed to know how the final product is supposed to go together. And I think that's where I would say you're not really an architect if you don't know how it gets to its final stage. Even if you're wrong about some of those things, that's fine. But you should at least have like some idea of from the beginning to the end how it gets there, right?
Yeah, I mean that's definitely true, but I'd make the argument that in that context, like we're going to take like the Amazon thing. It's like, okay, I've built this technology. I know exactly how this technology works. I'm going to put cameras in the stores in all these places, and it's going to scan, and it's going to work, and that's good. There's not that group of people coming in afterwards saying, okay, let's get to the real nitty gritty. What's the rate that these cameras are going to pick up images? What happens when a light bulb goes out? That is
Yeah.
generally something that falls to a second group, and that's pretty standard in most industries. You've got your creation team, you've got your if we get away from this push in tech to be everyone be DevOps, you had your developers, and then you had your testers, and then you had your
Yeah.
operations, and then you had your support, and like all four of those work together really well. And I think that's where we're failing ourselves with AI, is we've got the developers developing great things, but the switch to the operations is not that smooth. Testing is maybe a little bit weak, and support is just atrocious.
Yeah.
It's really falling apart in all the other ways. We keep building cool, amazing things. You see all these demos when they're real and not faked, but when the demos that are real are good. It's just getting that into the real world has been incredibly painful.
Yeah, I think so what I was saying, just to clarify, and then
Mm-hmm.
I'll stop, is that a good architect, and I, from a tech standpoint, I am an architect, so
Oh yeah.
I will speak on that from that kind of standpoint. A good architect grew up in like they developed themselves in such a way that they know what the support is like. They know what the life cycle of something is, and they know like what the other thing. So when they're creating something, they keep all that in mind, and they should at least be like, all right, this should look something like this when I make this. So,
Mm-hmm.
like, let's say that someone is building they're building a computer for, like, being able to remotely access and send information from or work as a remote access point for car inspections. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So you know that people are going to have to replace parts because these are going into a shop. You know that the shop is going to be a grimy, dirty, hot, nasty place. So that you start gathering these things, and then like when it comes down to it, it's going to have to run a certain operating system. It's going to have to be able to connect back over a certain type of either
Mm-hmm.
internet line using VPN or something else like that. You build all that stuff into it. Your OS better support all those components, right? And then you also have to have like, okay, this works in this way. This group of people that are going to be able to support this have to be able to do it. When this machine, gets like, put together and assembled and all that stuff, it should work like this. I think what ends up happening is someone will go to like PC Part Picker and they'll never have like actually created the machine. They're just like
Mm-hmm.
theoretically this should all work. That is not an architect. That's just some duder who's like, I think I can make this work. Let me sell you this bill of goods.
Mm-hmm.
That's like marketing.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this. I think in principle you are 100% correct. The architects really should be the people that know the process, like the back of their hand, and have built something that's a full solution that can be deployed because they know all those other steps in between. I will say though, having worked with lots of architects both in the IT industry and outside the IT industry, that's just not very common.
Yeah, it doesn't happen
It
all the time.
Because that's a tough pipeline,
Yeah.
because the other side of that is to get to that point before you ever architect your first thing. You're doing 5 to 10 years of work outside of it to understand support, to understand operations, to
Hmm.
understand testing. And very, very few architects I've encountered have actually done that. Even people that are very experienced architects, maybe they've been doing architecture for 20 years, went to school and then maybe they did high level operations, then they did architecture. Or maybe they went straight into architecture, or they did something like design first, which is kind of like that middle step between operations and what people are now calling like DevOps and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, so that is just really, I think, a problem we have in our technology stacks is that we're trying to force everyone to have the same title so we can have fewer people, but those titles mean something. And when you just grab somebody and say, "Hey, now you're DevOps," and they're really only Dev or Ops, and they just have to call themselves that now, that you're not getting the benefit because now you've got one guy that can't do half the job because it really should just be two people's jobs.
Yep.
And we've talked about that a lot before. I know I'm ranting now, but I do think if you look holistically, that's the big issue. There's a lot of hype around AI. There's a lot of great development around AI. There are very few truly hard hitting. Here's a product in the real world that has real value in AI.
That's very true. I mean, that's like the last 3 episodes have basically been that. So, well, that's a sobering note to think about, but I think that's where we're going to end today's episode. Do you have anything else you want to say about that?
I have one more thing.
Okay.
You told me to leave the beer until it warmed up.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
And you're right. It is much better chilled than cold. It gets a lot sweeter and a lot more mellow once it's warmed up a little bit.
Yeah, it does. Absolutely. And it's not even something that you can even like simulate by like just kind of having it on your palate and letting it warm up in your mouth. It has to like do it just kind of naturally. Lose some of that carbonation and some of the other things like that makes it bitter. So good call out. Otherwise, this has been season 7, episode 3 of the Beer and Broadband podcast, slated to come out on April 15th, 2024. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you next time.